Okay.
How you doing?
I'm good, Sean. How are you?
Doing great.
I'm good. Thank you so much for chatting with me. I really do appreciate it.
Oh, it's awesome.
AmeriConned is, I mean, it's terrifying. It really is a heart-wrenching and terrifying subject and film. Um, how did you come to be involved? What made you want to tell the story?
So it was brought to me by producer Dave Patterson and producer Jeffrey Mann um, a while back, right around the 09, 08 financial crisis. And we thought about starting it then, and then everything fell apart. And you know, uh, we all got slammed. And we watched the banks get bailed out, and none of us got bailed out. So we rebuilt, and then that, and also my background, from my family, immigrants from Ireland, who were able to come from extreme poverty to come to the United States and get on that path to the middle class by working hard, and just watching that being eroded, year after year after year, and the middle class with it made it, a very compelling movie to make. And yeah, I mean, it is a bit of a horror, but we have we have hope at the end, and I think there is hope. um and the pendulum is swinging, if we continue to swing it.
That is absolutely true. As I'm glad that the ending is a little bit on a positive because with what we see, and I mean, this is the thing about documentaries is seeing the truth on screen. But when you see and hear the stories of these people, your heart just breaks. And I love what you talked about there about your family coming over, the Irish. I'm wondering, is there a certain point that you think the American dream really sort of died? Like is it completely dead? Because it certainly seems to be, but the idea seems to still be around.
Yeah, so people are still coming here because of that dream.
Mm.
And we were number one. The middle class and the path of middle class was number one solidly from the New Deal, to about 1975. Um, and it is harder than it's ever been, or as in our, maybe our grandparents, since our grandparents were alive, to ascend to the middle class or stay in a class the whole time.
Mm.
But I have great hope. I mean, Chris Smalls, and like 6, 7, 10 of his people went up against the richest man in the world at the time, and were successful and won. So when we organize, when we don't become cynical, when we are able to get passionate and fight back, we can move mountains with very few people, and that gives me great hope.
That's exactly what the message you want to communicate with this film and the message we need to hear, for sure. Um, one of the things, as you're talking about it here, I mean, we talk about the hope aspect, but one of the things that comes up in the film is the idea, or somebody makes a comment that our system is set up to make people feel guilty. And that's something I've never heard before. I thought that was fascinating. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so I met hundreds and hundreds of people driving around the country. We shot in 23 states. We drove like 32,000 miles.
Hmm.
And we ran into so many people that were struggling, or they were falling out of the working class into poverty or homelessness, or falling out of the middle class into uncertainty. And they couldn't understand why, because they're working harder than they've ever worked, and they don't realize that it's all on purpose. And it's been a plan put in place since the late 60s that really started taking hold in the mid 70s and really took off in the 80s. And it's a written plan that they put billions and billions of dollars to get the Congress, to get the lobbyists in place, and to take the courts.
Hmm.
Right. And so they don't know why. So when you don't know why, then you're easily manipulated, and it's the guys coming over the border that are doing it, or it's the other, right? And that makes it very scary. That we're seeing, like January 6th, it becomes easy to manipulate people when they feel like they're falling out of their status, whether real or perceived. And that's what's happening. And and we focus, we get democracy and capitalism conflated. I'm not saying capitalism is bad, but you need to balance it. You need to, depending if it's a natural disaster, you turn up the socialism. If there's a depression, you turn up the socialism. When people get old, you take care of them. If people are sick, you take care of them. If you don't, it's, who wants to live in that country?
It really is terrifying to me. And I like that you brought up January 6th, because I mean, we see that's just one example that we've seen in the last 5 years. So we've seen protests, we've seen people marching the streets for all sorts of issues of inequity, financial, social, and it is amazing to me how narratives are getting almost toxic across the board.
This is on purpose. So they poll, like, places like the Heritage Foundation, they poll to see what divides people. Right. And they're seeing that, they're seeing that trans people are poll very, to divide. So they're going after that. They're going after the education that narrative polls well to separate people. They spend a lot of money to do this, because the reality is they don't want to help anyone. They just want to extract. They've extracted about $50 trillion from the working and middle classes since 1975. And that's just going up. So they have nothing to offer. So they have to divide, or they're going to lose power. It's scary. But, once you see this movie, you can't unsee it.
No, and that's exactly the point. I think so much of the film, as you watch it, it's when I say it's unwatchable, I mean that in a good way. Because it is like you've captured moments that are difficult to watch, and it's just reality right there. You're not playing with, tweaking facts or information. You're just showing people the state of the nation right now, and the brokenness that's there. I thought it was fascinating that you opened with this quote, opened with that quote from, forgive me if I mispronounced, Brandeis, I think is how it's pronounced.
Brandeis, yeah.
Brandeis.
The Supreme Court judge, yeah.
Yes, yes. He says democracy and wealth are absolutely opposed to one another. Is that true? Do you think that's true?
No, well, that's not exactly the quote.
Oh,
It's basically, you can have all of the wealth in the hands of a few, or you can have a democracy, but you can't have both. So, when you get top heavy with all the wealth that's been extracted to a very small amount of people, the middle class collapses and the poor increases, it goes unstable. And it's basically three things. You have three things that happen: police state, authoritarian rule, or a revolution. Well, none of those are good. Revolutions don't turn out the way you want them to, most 99% of the time, and would destroy the economy. We can change it. We just have to decide and vote for and do it ourselves. We have to organize ourselves, each of us, or we're not going to have a country that we want to live in.
well, and that sort of leans into what I was one to ask too, is in your perspective, and I know you talk a little bit about it in the film, but what do you think needs to happen to help bring some hope to these families across the board, or just help fix the system?
Yeah, so I think we have to organize, all of us. It's beyond the point where we can just sit back. We need to find leaders that will push for the middle class, equality across all people, no matter, race, gender, religion, That should not matter. I mean, that's in our Constitution. And we have to fight. And now, there is, in World War II, everyone was, got together collectively and pushed. And we have to do that now to save the middle class and the economy and the democracy. And when I see small groups of people doing amazing things, I get really hopeful, and I'm really excited, and I think we can do it. We just have to educate the people so they know what's happened, and that collectively we can make great change.
I love that idea of just coming together, because this goes into spinning the narrative so much, because as we talked about, when you bring division, you prevent that. And the more you spin those stories and go after certain groups, you prevent the people from doing that sort of thing. And I mean, revolution looks different now than it did 100 years ago or even 20 years ago in so many ways, but it still requires the same sort of draw together.
Yeah, and I do not push for a revolution. Certainly, I think we can do it within the system.
Right. Sorry, I mean that metaphorically.
I understand.
I'm not quite, yes, let's go.
No, I just want to be clear. But we did it before, right? It's in the movie. We did it before, right? In the 30s, and we can do it again. And we built the best middle class in the world and made a strong democracy because of it. And we can do it again. We did it. We can do it here in this country. And that's what I really wanted to bring home in the movie, is that this is not some, thing that happened somewhere else. We did it here, and we can do it again. We just have to get busy and make it happen.
I appreciate that. Sean, thank you so much for the time. The film really is powerful, and it is, I mean, it's a hard watch, but in the best of ways. And I really do appreciate the chance to chat with you about it. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much. And then June 13th, it's everywhere. So if you go to www.AMERICONNED.com, you can see all the info.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Sean.
Don't worry, like you never started.